shining a light on all things weird, supernatural, and unexplainable. The show that dares go down the rabbit hole to find the answers. The show that hands out red pills like they're candy. Weasel Media presents The X Report. And now the man who dares to take you on this journey, your host, Lucio Going Upstream. Welcome, listeners, to the first episode of The X Report, the show that takes you down the rabbit hole to the fringes of human experience. I'm your host, Lucio Going Upstream, and tonight I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Maxine Bennett.
Hi there.
Maxine and I are both reporters for Weasel News. She specializes in investigative reporting, and I produce a lot of different content for Weasel. We witness a lot of things on the streets here at Weasel. A surprising amount of these things are too strange or too surreal to report on to the masses. They often get brushed off to the wayside, into a filing cabinet in the basement of Weasel's studios. We here at the studio have given this cabinet the nickname The X Report because so many of these reports get X'd from our programming. Tonight, for the first time in Weasel history, we are going to be unsealing some of those files and uncovering the truth about what happens in the shadows.
I must warn you, this content may shock some of you viewers. Some of you might be ready to have your perception of reality skewed, and that's alright. The very most important thing I want to impart to you from this program is not for you to simply believe everything that I say to you at face value. I want to ignite a spark of curiosity in you. I want you to ask questions. I want you to dig and find the answers for yourself because that's the only way that you can wake up yourself from this slumber. Without further ado, let's get started.
Our very first topic for this show is one that I have been investigating since I very first flew into this city. It's a widespread phenomena that has been witnessed by hundreds of people all over the city. I'm talking, of course, about self-driving cars.
Sorry about that little squeak there, Lucia. Explosion. Ooh.
Was there an explosion?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have the room soundproof, so I couldn't hear a thing.
That's alright. Self-driving cars, excuse me.
Self-driving cars. This is a widespread phenomena. Many have witnessed these cars. They just drive aimlessly in circles in the street. They've been spotted all over the city, really. I've heard that they've been more concentrated in like urban areas than in the countryside.
Do you have any ideas why they would be doing that? Ghosts, possibly demons, maybe even just malfunction in the mechanics?
These are many theories that we have been speculating on. It's truly a mystery because the phenomena in nature, I mean, I have gone up to some of these vehicles as they have been, driving in the weird circular pattern that they do, and one drove up to me almost like it was like a dog looking at me, and then it drove away and it did this little loop, and then it drove up to me and looked at me almost like it was like I got this vibe like a dog, doing a little trick and being like, look what I did, or a little kid or something. And then it did it again, and then it did it again. It felt like it was like, looking at me or trying to interact with me.
It almost reminds me of the Christine movie. You know that movie?
Christine? No, I'm not familiar.
So it's about this car. This kid develops a really obsession with this car, and his friend starts being concerned, and they mess with the car a little bit, and the car starts to actually go and attack them. It's Christine, 1983. It's one of those movies that people make fun of in the future. They even referenced it in Scooby-Doo once.
What was the nature of the car? Was it like a supernatural phenomena? Did his love for the car kind of like bring it to life?
I guess you could say that. He buys it and it just starts having a mind of its own. You could call it scary. Death by car isn't that fun. 1,000 pounds rolling around over you is very painful. I've heard in people's experiences. Uh, so it seemed to attack people. It was quite scary to the people involved, but most people thought that the guy who was crazy about the car could use a reality check.
Do you think that we all of us in Los Santos are that guy? That we ourselves need some sort of reality check because our thoughts and ambition, our lust for these fancy cars is like causing them to have a mind of their own, do you
I
think?
think a lot of people have a fascination with their automobiles in the city, which is healthy. It's a great hobby to adore and take care of your vehicles. But I do think that self-driving cars, whether we're talking about Ghost here, like with Christine's odd driving abilities, or we're talking about like hacking from a different country or a different location in Los Santos, sort of like how we saw with Mr. Ink and his hacking of the power systems and even the dam, which life-threatening, takes out the water too. It's dangerous. I think that people take for granted their automobiles, in the short of the answer.
You mentioned being like hacked from an outside source, and then the incident with now this is the police deny any magic or anything involved. He specifically said he doesn't believe in magic, but from the report, go ahead and describe the reports of that incident, the snapping of the fingers.
August 27th, it was the first day I jumped off the train, and the power went out. I think everyone remembers that in the last 4 months, well, last 6 at this point, that Mr. Ink has been terrorizing the city. He has cut power to multiple locations and statewide multiple times. And on 27th, there was no announcement that it was him. There was no confirmation because at the time he was supposed to be in prison. I kind of went over this in my article back in early September, late August, and I mentioned a lot about whether or not they had control of the situation and if if he was involved. I actually had an update recently, Lucio, and I spoke with the cops. And it's not that they didn't believe in magic; it's just they had no proof and they wanted to prevent hysteria. But it really does bring into question, like, if Mr. Ink wasn't the one controlling power, who was? And that kind of gives me scared because, as you know, power and water company, if the power of the city goes out, not only do we lose electricity and light, we lose the ability to get water from our get water at all, and the dam could break and flood the entire city. It is a dangerous possibility, and I'm terrified every time the power goes out. And when it comes to self-driving cars, a lot of them rely on the GPS. I don't know if you've ever heard about phone companies trying to get involved in it, or even automobile companies, but there's a lot of danger in self-driving cars. All it really takes is someone with the possibility and the strength and the intelligence to hack into it, and they can control how it goes, which is why I'm a bit afraid of the cars on the street nowadays. Is it a juvenile attempt at hacking, or is it just plain supernatural?
Or is it a precursor to something larger, a larger scale ink attack or something along those nature, or maybe said from another, who knows? I don't want to get too wild with my speculation here. I want to keep it reined in. But these are definitely some good questions. Have you ever been struck by any of these cars as they've been going around in their loops?
I think everyone has. I can't recall a specific time, but I think everyone has, and I think we can agree on that. They don't really do any permanent damage.
Yeah, it's usually pretty light. I mean, I have footage of myself actually being struck by one of these, and it was, more or less what you would expect getting hit by any other local vehicle.
An inconvenience.
Now, one subject we haven't really brought up in this regard is humane labs. From what I have noticed, they've been relatively silent from the past since we have done since we did the tour with Apollo and Rex 2.0. I haven't really seen Sarah, and if you are listening out there, Sarah, please get in contact with me. It'd be great to hear from you.
I don't think we'll be seeing anyone from Humane Labs anytime soon.
Oh yeah, what leads you to believe that?
Uh, Personal affairs. There seems to be no one in charge at the moment. And the one time that we did go up there, me and Link, yeah, Hood journalism. We went and checked out Humane Labs once on a rumor and discovered nothing. It's whoever's in charge is not around at the moment. It's a bummer because there's a lot of things that we could discuss with them, and I feel like they have more of an insight in things.
Absolutely.
We do.
I would love to get one of them here on this show. It is my plan. If anybody from Humane Labs out there is listening right now, please come into the city. Please get into contact with somebody at Weasel News. We would love to get you on the show. But if they've really been absent, then I guess they really wouldn't have to have too much of a hand. Maybe somebody is poking around Humane Lab. Maybe since nobody's there to guard it, maybe people are poking. Maybe some of the experiments have gotten loose, mess with some of the machinery. Maybe someone's poking around.
A car, do you think an automobile would have the same kind of consciousness as Apollo, for example?
I mean,
Is that what you're trying to imply?
not entirely, but I like the direction you're going here.
I don't know. We can head back to the self-driving cars, but let me do a quick, just tad bit here. Apollo's always been kind of a mystery, and I think that it's a frightening mystery. I don't know if it's if it's experimentation on animals or human, but whatever he is not of this world. I think we all agree with that.
Yeah, he's supernatural indeed. If anybody has any information on the originations of Apollo, or if you know Apollo himself, Apollo, if you're listening out here, we would like to get your insight here on the X Report. We'd like to hear your side of the story. But I think I think we went down the rabbit hole, and I think we unearthed some questions, some possibilities about these self-driving cars. Maybe we'll touch on the subject again in the future if we find some more developments. I mean, it's a very fascinating and bizarre subject, but I think we don't want to drag on for too long, so I think we'll cut it there, folks.
If anyone has any comments, questions, and or information involving anything we've talked about today, whether it's hacking of automobiles or dams or even the power in the system, even Apollo and Humane Labs, anything from that stretch, feel free to reach out to Weasel News. The X-Files isn't just about exploration, it's about solving.
X Report.
X Report? Ah, well. X Report. It's gonna sit in, isn't it, Lucio? But yeah, I'm Maxine. It's nice to hear all you folks out there. I'll see you around.
Thank you for joining us, fellow listeners. We'll see you next time on the X Report.
Toodles.
If any of you fellow listeners have experienced anything weird, supernatural, unexplainable, anything that you feel like you can't talk about with your fellow friends because they'll point at you and laugh at you and say, "What are you smoking?" Please get in contact with somebody at Weasel News. We want to hear your story, and we would possibly like to get you on the air here at the X Report.